Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to do another Reddit question. But before we do, I was actually recently doing these questions on the personal finance subreddit, and I don't really know a whole lot about Reddit, but I decided to jump on and answer some questions. And apparently I got banned from the personal finance subreddit because apparently you can't put a link in your bio to your YouTube channel. So anyways, hopefully they lift that ban so I can answer the questions, but thankfully I can still read them and answer them right here on the YouTube channel. So here we go. I'm going to pull up one that I saw and actually saw a good recommendation that I wanted to share and kind of give my 2 cents really on this recommendation, what this person's asking. So here we go. So this one says, looking to buy some sort of bond or fund for my young nephew, what would be best? So pretty much the title. My nephew is 9 months old. I want to put somewhere between $500 and $1,000 in some sort of fund for when he's older and living on his own. I also plan to do this for his siblings and any other nieces and nephews. What would be the best option for this? So here was a recommendation. One recommendation, if you want to call it that or whatever. They say to use I-bonds. And let me preface that. I say recommendation. I'm not making recommendations at all. I'm just pointing things out on this channel. Nothing is a recommendation. So that's my disclosure. So anyways, let's move forward with this. So looking at the series I-bonds, and this other individual says, basically, it looks like buy blue chips like 3M because they have dividends. All right, well, that's an okay recommendation. I like the series of I-bonds. Let's take a look at that. Let's talk about it. So if we go to the Treasury Direct, we should be able to get a little bit more information on these I-bonds. So if you're not familiar with I-bonds, you can use them for educational purposes. They're a pretty good investment for education because the interest that you would accrue on it will be tax-free. So if you use it for qualified educational expenses. Now the current rate is at 7.12%. Now there's two parts to series I bonds. There's a fixed rate, which is actually at 0. Let me see if I can show you that. That is at 0, which gets set twice a year. So it's at 0 and the variable rate is 3.56% right now. You do a little bit of math and you work out to 7.12%. So that is the current rate. So it could change, but historically, let's look at the historical composite. So if you see the word composite, just think of composition, something that is all encompassing. So in this is the composite rate. So it's the fixed rate plus your variable rate, basically is what it is. So it's 7.12%. If you look down, it's been relatively high, but declining as back to 1998, 10.64%. Obviously, it's come down to in the 7s since quite a while, actually. Let's see what we got here. Since the 7s, since 2008. So that's where it's been. Now that looks like a pretty good rate when you're looking at some historical numbers, like comparing it to the S&P 500. Then you're going to say, oh, well, if the market gets 8 to 10%, but that is not guaranteed, this might be a better option. Now that variable rate could change every 6 months. So that could drop. I guess you'd suppose that's one of the risks of owning one of these series I bonds, but still not a bad recommendation for this if you're doing it. Now, a couple of things to note. You can only do up to $15,000, $10,000 electronic, and I think it's $5,000 by paper. You can do that on an annual basis for each individual. So you can buy it for yourself. You can buy it for, in this case, a niece or a nephew, each one of them up to that amount. But they were only asking for $500 to $1,000. So that'd be not a bad recommendation. But I also wanted to take a look at historical numbers to just kind of give it some perspective. So I pulled up this chart right here, and this is the matrix chart. Now, if you've watched this channel, I've used these charts in the past. They're actually really easy to read, but they look complicated. So this is the S&P 500 rates of return. And what's cool about this chart is if we zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to take myself off the screen so we can only see the screen so you can see the whole thing so I don't cover anything up. And look right down here. Let me zoom all the way in so you can see it if you're watching this on your phone or something. From 1926 to 2020, the S&P 500 did a compound annual rate of return of 10.3%. That's what this chart is showing. And if you go over to here from 1927 to 2020, same thing. From 1928 to 2020, that is 10%. That's how you read it. So you just got to follow these two lines. And at that point is what the rate is, or the annual compound rate of return every year. It's the annual compound. That's what it is. If you don't know what it is, that's how you calculate it from 1928 to 2020. Now, let's go look at those rates that are a little bit closer to home, meaning more recently. So if we look from 2020 to any one of these years, we just start going down this column right here, or this row. And you can see even from 2010 till 2020, the compound annual rate of return is 13.6%. And really the lowest one on this track is from 2015 to 2020 at 11.7%. So all these are historically high. Again, much shorter time frames, but the point is, if you're looking at these rates, even on an annual basis, they're significantly higher because the market's done really well over the last decade. So that's kind of the point that I want to point out. So it's 13.6 from 2010 to 2020. And if we go back to the bonds, you could just see, again, those rates were, the composites were between, just from then, from 2010, is 7% basically all throughout. So it's almost double. Now, let's put this into perspective. Let me see if I can pull up my calculator, and I'll bring it up here. And let's just look at that. Let's look at over an 18-year period, because in that question, it was showing that it was the nephew, I think it was 9 months old. So let's just say 18 years at a 7% rate of return, and we have $1,000. We are going to contribute nothing more, and that'll be about $3,500 right there. So investing at a 7% rate of return, $1,000 in 18 years, it'd be $3,500. But if we just go to 10%, not even what we were showing in the S&P 500, that's $6,000. And if we go back to the chart, and even if we look from 2010 to 2020, 13.6%. Let's just see what that looks like. 13.6%. Now that's hot. That's high. Don't expect 13.6%. But let's just show what it is. That's $11,407. So that's a huge difference. 7%, again, at $3,500 to, what are we looking at? Almost times 3, more than triple. More than triple the return, or triple the amount that you'd have in the account over that time frame. So it's not that those bonds are bad, because they're good. There's benefits to them, but there's a cap on the amount that you can put in. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. But looking at just the S&P 500 would probably be a better long-term strategy than looking at these bonds. Even though the bonds have a pretty solid rate, they're guaranteed so you can sleep easier at night. But a little education and understanding could help you go a long way, because this isn't money that's going to be used in the next few years. This is money that's not going to be touched until at least 18, 19, 20, maybe even longer. So we're just running numbers for 18 years. So if you're planting that seed today, you can use an UTMA and you can invest. If you want to just keep it plain vanilla, invest in the S&P 500 or take a look at the S&P 500. Again, you have to do your own homework, your own research. But the other point about this isn't just the investment, it's also understanding the set of circumstances. Really, I'll say that, because it's not just your risk tolerance. It's not, can you handle it? Do you only want something that's guaranteed? It is the context of it, because even if you're super conservative, just understanding that this isn't going to be for you, this is going to be for somebody else in a very long period of time, and you can set it and forget it and possibly do significantly better. Now, again, there's no guarantees in the market, and I'm not recommending that you go and put all your money into the stock market if you don't know anything, and if you're not getting professional advice and you're not going to take the time to learn anything, then yeah, it's not a good move. And if you would sell when the market goes down, the only person that's going to know that is you. So if you're going to sell when the market's down, yeah, the market's terrible idea if that's the way that you're going to look at it. if you don't have that ability to just be patient with the market over long periods of time. But history has shown us that the market performs well over long periods of time. So I don't really know why you would do it any other way. But I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was a good recommendation, but there are other alternatives, possibly better options for you. So take a look. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.